And yeah, please give a warm applause for our next talk.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for staying. Here is Louise again. We are not going to repeat most of the content that you just heard, but instead we are going to give content creators perspective to that same project and in general for creating educational content. So the talk is in two parts. I'll talk about Futuclass. We've been doing educational content out of Estonia for 5 years. And I would say we are successful in many small scale settings, but it's difficult to scale like really big due to some factors which I'll get into. And Louise will be talking about exactly how the success at the larger scale looks like. And maybe why care about education at all as much? You know, there's other things we could be looking at. I would argue that education is the future, and basically we all went to school, probably quite significant part of our lives, and we probably have quite many ideas how to make that experience better, and why wouldn't we want that for the next generation? And also when you look at VR, it's such a great machine for learning. You're basically hyper-focused, rid of all the world's distractions, and you're in an environment designed specifically to teach you something, very high bandwidth. So that's kind of the optimal way to really pass on learning. And going a bit to the origins of how our company got started, we had people running the most successful VR arcade chain in Estonia. They saw for 3-4 years 10 or 12-year-old kids coming, spending hours pouring coffee in the printer and job simulator, or basically interacting with a mindlessly long, which seemed like primitive, but actually the idea was born out of that to make something useful and something learning focused with the same level of kind of engagement. And on the other hand, I had the fortune to work on Glitch. It's the first, it's basically a massively multiplayer game developed in Vancouver, Canada and US, which pivoted famously into Slack. And also, by the way, Flickr, if you know the website, was also kind of pivoted from the same idea of the first attempt to make this kind of massively multiplayer game. Anyway, so I had this that background plus having a dream of game design for basically 20 years. And when I saw VR in 2017, I was basically, that's what I'll be doing for the next 20, 30 years of my life. And really bringing games or this interactive, engaging medium out of 2D into 3D world around us is, I don't think there's anything cooler. And education really fits in there to like make games be useful. And finally, we're from Estonia, so everybody has a startup and there's a really conducive environment to making things happen. And you can access schools really easily, ministries and so on. And also we picked the first kind of few years of science, so basically 12 to 14-year-olds. And why is that? Well, you can also say, of course, say that science is universal, so it's quite easy to build relatively easy to build a global product. So if physics works the same in every country, and also it's pretty objective. So at least until generative AI came around, it was a lot easier to make for computers to kind of interpret the success or failure in kind of a logical way as you would in a science experiment versus like history or languages and so on. And also success in science is basically it's very highly correlated with general success in academics and in life. And to kind of establish a positive relationship in the first years for kids, we thought we could really make a difference in there. And I think we are. And we also went for really interactive, engaging SIG-stuff experiences. So they take quite a bit of longer to develop, but the engagement level is really high. And we start from the learning objectives for each module. So basically, you learn a little bit, and then you have to do a task. And the whole 20, 30 minute length modules, they're all built in a way that you basically learn by doing. And this has been like super effective in all our experiences. And now for the challenges we met along the way, and I'll share which ones we think we have solved and which ones we perhaps haven't. Basically, yeah, you get the resolution right away in the bottom. So basically, to make engaging content, that really makes students learn better. This, I think we have nailed it. We have some studies coming in and some that have been concluded, but basically the numbers vary, but the overall conclusion is from most of them that basically the scores were higher, students learn more, and most importantly, the engagement was really much, much higher, and the interest towards STEM subjects before playing Futuclass. And the next thing is, if you're a school, you want to buy everything from one vendor, and if you know the ecosystem a little bit, it's probably Louise covered as well, you basically need not only your software, you need a bunch of software that covers all the subjects. You need a case, of course, you need to provide headsets, you need to provide an MDM for any significant deployment. And then you also need to provide all the training and teacher support over time. And this, while actually pretty much all of the providers in this different stakeholders, they have their own educational bundle that they offer. But it's really, it's kind of not their main business. So in a sense, while we also provide all this, it is definitely clear that like a larger initiative that's really focused on delivering this whole thing is actually much more efficient, which Louise will get into. And content is always has been the big issue. Basically, whenever you start talking to schools about VR, they're like, what content is there that's curriculum aligned, and then what is in my language? And that's usually a very sad answer. There isn't much. Yeah, I think we managed to, basically we came up with partner apps at some point, so we started reselling other companies, that we thought are great producers of educational content, their apps. There's limits to what you can do with them, like you can't translate them, you can share them only, it's a bit of friction involved, but basically you can use MDMs to kind of resell and arrange invoicing, because the part that basically the one who sells the apps and interfaces to the school the most, the one should kind of earn something on it, right? That makes sense. But again, like this is not optimal in a way that if you're big and you can guarantee like 1,000 licenses sale or something like this, if you're a big, if you have a big top-down initiative, then you could handle content part much better. You could force localization. You can really incentivize all the content developers to kind of make their app available on certain platform, maybe they weren't before, and so on. And another big obstacle that it's hard for a small developer to overcome is basically make the schools try and be exposed to VR, especially teachers. So you need a good staff of a number of people to really go out there and make teachers experience VR themselves, and also giving a lesson in VR. And that's only where the magic happens. I'm sure you all know talking about VR is a bit futile. It's a lot better when you actually can experience it and then you understand it like immediately. So doing this at scale also requires such an effort and quite a number of people. And yeah, teaching the teachers. So we tried, I think many developers try, but we tried especially hard to make technological solutions to kind of help teachers. We have lesson plans, we have community on Facebook. We have a way to, basically there's an assessment happening inside the learning modules. There is an online portal where you can see where all the students are at, so you can kind of help them. We even have a 6-week mentoring program. So those all kind of work. But again, like you really need a staff of people to do this like effectively at scale, who engage locally in person. Kind of a VR, I guess, is like high-touch business. It's a bit hard to just kind of delegate it out, at least in education. And yes, I'd like to basically end by saying that despite there are some successes, something that definitely a small company cannot handle, but I think we must and could use a bigger a budget for, or a big initiative for. But overall, I think we must pursue this basically automating learning, because over time, what teachers most care about is their free time, and how they get it back is that if we automate a lot of the experiences, that they kind of they could just give the headset and let students go. And they can really focus on totally providing value in a new place where it's really needed. So I'll pass it on to Louise now to talk about all the good things that she's doing to kind of help us small-time content creators.
Thank you, Märt. Let's see. All right, so I think some people here already heard something about our project, but maybe I'll just give a brief overview. So basically what we are doing is we are deploying 1,200 headsets in 700 schools in Flanders, Belgium. We have a full package. It's available for free since it's government funded, but I will talk more about why and how later. So as Märt said, I think most of you also know that XR has proven its worth in education. It can provide great additional value, great educational value, but it's still, we see that not a lot of schools are actually using VR, sometimes maybe in a small scale, but we aren't aware globally of schools who are really at large scale using virtual reality, even though it has great benefits. And we believe that there are a couple of reasons, maybe a combination of the reasons why the adoption of VR is still so low. So I guess the main one that most schools encounter first is hardware. There's lots of different hardware available, multiple manufacturers. Each device has its own specifics. And as a school, it's difficult to research what device is the best for your needs. Do you want a 3DOF device, 6DOF? Do you want PC VR, standalone? There's a lot of options, a lot of different budgets as well. If you take a look at the average pricing of a headset, it's quite expensive. Schools most of the time don't have a big budget. So that's usually one of the first things that they encounter that stops them from using virtual reality. Besides, once you make the decision to invest in hardware, you also need to think about software. A lot of schools think that a VR headset comes with pre-installed content and that it's all available for free, that you have like you have on a phone, that you have an app library or an app store which has a lot of free content, but that isn't the case in VR headset. You have some free content available, but most of it is it's like a demo app, or you still need some licenses to get access to the full app, but also a lot of content on the App Store. It's mostly games. It's not really something that teachers are looking for. So it's very difficult for teachers to find the right content. And once they do, they most likely don't have the budget to really invest in it. But then the third reason I believe that that is really important for schools is schools don't have the time to research and investigate and to see what works. And it's very costly if you make a mistake, if you decide to invest, and then afterwards you see that maybe it wasn't the right device or the right software, and it's very expensive. It takes a lot of time, a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted money, and most importantly, just a waste of opportunity if you make the wrong decisions there. So what usually happens, what we've seen happen in schools before, was that they did invest in some kind of hardware, but then they got stuck somewhere, they didn't know where to find the software, and the devices ended up in some closet to never see the light of day again. So unfortunately, we saw that happen in quite a lot of schools. So that's where the government stepped in, and we came up with the XR action plan, where we basically tried to solve all the issues that developers like Futuclass are experiencing, but also issues that schools are experiencing. So with this plan, we try to provide a solution for schools that is available for free, where they can low risk experience different apps. They can see what works, they can see what's interesting for them, and it provides them with an idea. If they want to take this further, we can invest, we can make smart choices so that we have the right hardware and the right software. So the XR action plan consists of multiple parts. I think the main one that people always mention is the lending service. So we have 1,000 200 almost headsets available for schools for free. So we use those in about 700 schools in Flanders. They are distributed to school communities. So the way that it works is usually a community consists of between 4 and 8 schools in general. They get an amount of headset based on the size of the community, and then they organize it internally. So some schools choose to have a dedicated school, a dedicated classroom where the headsets permanently stay and everybody goes to that classroom. But others, they drive around with the headsets, or they divide the headsets among the schools. So schools are free to make that decision on how they want to do that. But on the hardware, we also have a software library available. So we, as RTC Antwerp, we purchase all the licenses. We are open for suggestions, of course, but we do a lot of research on which content is interesting for schools, which content provides educational value, how can it help teachers with struggles they might have. Now we purchase the licenses for them, and we make it available on all the devices. So every school has access to the same content. And that was very important for us as well, because we want everybody to have an equal opportunity to try out everything. And we manage the software library through ArborXR, so we're able to push updates to install new content all the time, so schools don't have to worry about that. But then the third part, which is maybe the most important one, is that we also have XR Academy. So the way this works is we work together with some universities and colleges in Flanders, and they go from school to school to provide, they have like a menu of trainings that schools can choose from. So they can choose either a general training with the basics of how VR works, but it can also be more detailed or more advanced based on a certain subject, for example. So they have like a list of different trainings to choose from. XR Academy visits the school to train the teachers, to make them feel confident and competent in using everything that is available for them. Last thing that we also are doing is we're also doing research. So we have, again, some colleges and universities who are conducting research on this initiative to see how we can improve it maybe in the future, what's going good, what can be better, and how we can really make XR a sustainable part of our education. Well, what we learned so far, we've been doing this for about 1.5 years now. I think the main point that I want to make is a top-down centralized approach works. So we take a lot of burdens away from schools. They don't have to worry about investing in hardware. They don't have to do research on the hardware, but also on the software. So everything is available for them for free. We train the teachers to make them feel confident and to make them really understand how it works and what benefits it provides for them. So really to make sure that they know how to use it and that they will use it. So that's I think, one of the main points as well. And then you need someone, like RTC in this case, to support everything, to manage everything, so that schools don't have to worry about that. They can use it, low risk, they can do whatever they want with it, and we're here to support them. So also if they find like an app, or they see something on TV or at an event, we're open to suggestions, so they can always suggest, hey, could you make this available? And in most cases, we are actually able to do that. So I guess that's quite a benefit for them as well. So the results that we've seen so far is that schools are really convinced of the benefits. We see that a lot of schools are using VR for different subjects, for different trainings, different things, and they are even investing in it themselves. But the same goes for other countries. We are seeing similar projects rising in other countries as well. So we hope that by all of this, we could help developers like Futuclass to overcome their challenges and help schools in really making XR a sustainable part of their education. So to give you a quick overview, these are some of the partners that we currently work with. So that might give you an idea of the content that is currently available. Right, thank you very much, everyone. We still have about 5 minutes left for questions, so happy to hear it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's awesome, Louise and Märt. My name is Cyril Tushy of Sync Reality, which is a responsive design tool for spatial computing. And I wanted to say I love education, and if I did 20 years of film and 10 years of XR, and beyond that, I always loved how to learn and how to teach. And I was super hesitant to jump into the education field because I'm from Germany, and I was so much fearing to not be able to synchronize what the cultus minister would deem as a good education plan and how many decades it will take to dig through this to do something constructive. So I was full of fear, and you're so brave that you tackled that. And I have a question to you and also to you. How do the teachers react? For example, if they say, if we teach with VR, is there an equivalent of others in the learning plan without VR? Will they say, we don't accept your learning progress? Or is there something where they say, hey, green light, you did it faster, more efficient? How can you synchronize this? This is one question, and the other question was more technical. Who is greenlighting from the state side? I understand the top-down. Which headset you use and which software? I mean, why Pico and why not Meta or whatever?
Okay, interesting question. So to answer on the second part, we had a European tender procedure. So for all the project, it was by a tender. So we didn't really make a choice. It was based on the criteria in the tender, and Pico came out as the best one. And in the meantime, I forgot your first question. So.
The kind of like bureaucratic thing.
Oh yeah.
Education. How can you synchronize it, and that people don't say, hey, that's all bullshit what you're offering, and you cannot see. It's not the equal thing to the real good education without VR.
Yeah, well, the selection process of adding new content is quite complex process, a lot of people involved, a lot of testing involved as well. So we usually have some feedback from the teacher's perspective. Then from our side, as an organization, we're like the bridge between education and labor markets. So we have a lot of contacts with schools, but also with companies. So we do a lot of asking around there as well to ask their opinion, and we work together like that. So with schools, with education, but then of course there's also the government part that is involved. So it's like a big group of people who decide, and a lot of testing.
You don't have to agree that. I mean, I know Estonia is small, and that's good because you can have fast access to the government. In Germany, this would be impossible. But maybe you have an idea how to solve that.
Yeah, I think we had 1 or 2 more questions. Maybe we have 2 more minutes, so we can make it fast.
Thank you. Great project, great playbook to be successful. Let's do one step back. How did you get the money? Like how the government was convinced to found this initiative? Because it's great, but the problem is like getting the money to do what you have done.
Yeah. I guess we just did a great pitch. No worries. So yeah, the project is of course based on a lot of research conducting over the years by multiple universities abroad and nationally. So the idea came from that, but also from the benefits that we saw in schools, again, nationally and abroad, who were already using VR, and it goes from secondary schools to universities. So that we came up with the idea like that, and then COVID was an accelerator there, because with distance learning and everything, XR provides great benefits there as well.
And bottom-up approach also works. You go to schools, you kind of plug in what they're already doing, and usually teachers and at a school level, they have freedom to invest in VR headsets and software if it works and provides like a pleasant alternative to what they're already doing.
All right, thank you very much.
Question there maybe? 30 seconds?
We are unfortunately out of time, but please
talk
feel
in the
free to,
hallway.
yes, after the session, I'm sure you will stick around. So thank you all for coming. All these talks today were super exciting to hear what will come in the future. And yeah, I'm happy to hear there are people who are tackling the issues we still have, unfortunately. We will take a 30-minute break now, so make sure to get some water, get a little snack, and then come back and hear more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.